Media.
7 minutes past 12, you are listening to the Mid Morning Talk on Salam Media. It's time for our segment with Islamic Careline, and today we are discussing eating disorders. Although the term eating is in the name, eating disorders are more than just food. They're complex mental health conditions that often require the intervention of medical and psychological experts to alter their course. And to tell us more, we have Islamic Careline's social worker, Shuhaida Adam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Shuhaida.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Today it's a fascinating topic. I think a lot of us, we know a bit about eating disorders. However, I'm going
Mm,
to unpack some things, and I think there's going to be some new information that our listeners and viewers are going to hear. And it's quite interesting, and they may be able to recognize certain behaviors. That if they do
mm,
recognize these certain behaviors, if they do need help, they hopefully would be able to reach out to the right person to be able to help them just through finding out this information.
mm.
So,
All right.
it's not just about the food. So, it's a complex mental health condition that drives unhealthy habits, thoughts, behaviors around food, but also around weight and body image, body style, body shape. So these habits then can have extremely detrimental effects on you, your well-being, your physical health, and it can be fatal. There are many fatal cases where people with eating disorders, they die of a condition relating specifically to that disorder. And when we look at the
Mm,
specific ones, you look at some of the effects, then you'll see also why and how harmful it can be. One other thing is that many women are a lot more susceptible to eating disorders than men. However, there are a growing amount of men who are presenting with eating disorders. However, due to the nature of stigma in communities, or perhaps just the understanding or the misunderstanding that men don't have eating disorders, a lot of men don't actually seek treatment for it, and they have harmful habits relating to weight, relating to their eating, relating to the items that they consume, which can also have fatal consequences for men as well. But by and large, it's the majority of our clients and people who experience eating disorders are women. So it really
mhm,
doesn't also discriminate. A lot of we're finding it across the different cultures, and that's globally also. So even in your more diverse countries, people are finding the people with eating disorders are coming from multiple cultures as well. So there's still a lot of research being done relating to the reasons behind it. And as our society is changing and our influences are evolving, there's new information coming up. So it's still something ongoing. The important thing is that we talk about it and we educate people just about what to look out for and to understand why is it there, and also just to sort of break the stigma around it.
mm. All right. What qualifies as an eating disorder?
Okay, so there's different types of eating disorders. So we'll look at the behaviors that are
Mm-hmm.
present for at least about 6 weeks to about 3 months or so, prevalent behaviors. And then, of course, we look at the end outcome. So, what is the person presenting? Um, how are they right now? So, what's the, well, they state of their body, and then psychologically also. We try to understand their thought patterns relating to the behavior, related to the different types of eating disorders. So there are quite a few recognized ones. Overall, we look at the person's condition, their physical condition. So certain ones will present certain types of common behaviors. Some of them there are overlaps, and then there are some unique ones in the specific eating disorder. So shall I go into some of the more common ones? So I think
Yes.
most people are aware of anorexia,
Mm-hmm.
anorexia nervosa, and I think there's a big understanding around it that it's the restriction of food, and it's relating. There's an obsessive focus on attaining thinness. The person believes they are overweight, even if they are not overweight. So there's two types of anorexia. So we have our anorexia nervosa, where a person will then restrict their food. They will be excessively focused on perhaps exercising, fasting, or not eating at all. They are concerned about the types of food they eat and the portions that they eat, if they even eat. So it's very well known, and it's a bit easy to hide also. There's very restricted eating patterns. So oftentimes we can hide it as just being concerned about our health, or people with anorexia, they may avoid eating times. So they'll skip meals and say that they'll have something later, but they actually don't end up having something later. There's an intense fear of gaining weight, and their body shape, their body weight actually influences their self-esteem. And then there's a very distorted view of the actual weight. So the person will often believe that they are extremely overweight, that they are perhaps normal, or they are underweight. And they do not see that. In their mind, they see themselves as extremely overweight. Um, However, we don't only look at weight, because there are certain people who have a type of anorexia that can actually maintain a sort of a stable weight. So they're not extremely thin, they're not extremely underweight. Um, Oftentimes, people with this type of anorexia, where they don't actually lose weight, they have a type of a binging type of an anorexia. Sorry, not a binging, a purging anorexia. So they will consume and then they purge. So they either they use diuretics, or they'll use laxatives, or they will induce vomiting to remove whatever little calories that they have consumed. Or they will go on extreme exercising. So this, of course, is very damaging to the body. Your body is not getting the nutrients it needs. It's not getting its support, so it cannot function on its own. You'll find people with anorexia also, a lot of them, they do lose weight. They are quite underweight. Oftentimes you'll find that they are covered up. So even if it's very hot weather, they are covered up, they are feeling cold, they'll start developing fine hairs on their body as a means of, as their body is protecting them from the cold, because they have no body fat. So their body doesn't have anything to warm them up. Their organs are not functioning properly because of the lack of nutrients. The hormones, the electrolytes, the blood levels of all the nutrients that needs to be in your body to function, it's not there. They then struggle with concentrating. They faint now and then, often when standing up or doing something fast, or while doing exercise, they will be fainting. Their sleep patterns are disrupted. The menstrual patterns are disrupted. The physical conditions, so their skin, their nails, their hair, etc., all of that is quite damaged. The immune system is not functioning well, so they are more susceptible to viruses and colds and etc., those types of conditions. Um, so you'll find that people with anorexia, they often are obsessed with portion control, calorie control. They count their calories often. They are very focused on healthy recipes. They will even to a point where they will hoard recipes, but then they barely eat it. Okay, um, so that is anorexia. Then we have bulimia. So bulimia, I think people know bulimia as the one where people, they go on a binge. They then feel very guilty about that binge. They often feel disgusted with themselves. Now that binge, it's quite difficult for them to go through it. Actually, they are out of control. So they cannot stop themselves from eating. There will be a certain food, there will be foods there, and this person cannot stop. They will eat more than is a normal size serving of that food. They often finish whatever it is. They finish it, even if it's a lot of it. This binging, of course, they become quite ashamed of it, so they hide it. You'll find that people with bulimia, they binge secretly. So in person, they may often be sitting with the family or eating as normal with everybody, but then the binging is done in secret. It's done at night, it's done in private, it could be very unhealthy foods also. They then feel extremely guilty about this binge, ashamed of themselves, and they also believe that now their weight is extremely impacted by this binging. So they will then they will purge all this food out. So they will either, the most common one we know is, of course, inducing the vomiting, but they can also purge either through laxatives or fasting or excessive fasting also. So it's not just necessarily a whole day of fasting. They may go overboard with that, fast day and night kind of a thing. and diuretics, even enemas, and they also may use excessive exercise. So it may seem a little bit similar to the purging around anorexia. However, here there isn't that much relating to portion control and relating to fitness so much. People with bulimia actually, they maintain relatively normal weight. So they don't present necessarily the same symptoms of that excessive underweight or like the fine hair and the dizziness, etc. However, these periods of binging, it becomes recurrent. So it does a lot of damage inside because there's constant self-hatred. There is extreme damage in terms of your self-esteem. That loss of control, it leads to a lot of guilt, and then your self-esteem is also impacted here by your body weight and by your body image. One of the physical symptoms we can look at is because of the induced vomiting or the excessive use of laxatives, constant using the bathroom, etc. So there will often be a lot of dehydration. There will be severe reflux. People's enamel, due to the vomiting, it will be eroded away. You'll find again that they're not getting the nutrients that they need. Their body systems are not able to function properly. The organs are not able to function properly. Like with anorexia, people with bulimia possibly also can face multiple organ failure, and they can then die as a result of that. Also disturbed hormones, so their cycle again is disturbed. Again, I'll repeat here that it's not necessarily that they lose weight. They often maintain a regular weight. They do seem to have a stable weight. So another one I've got is the binge eating disorder.
Right. So before we go into the other one, Shuhaida, let us take a quick break and we will continue thereafter, inshallah.
The refugee children of Syria and Palestine in South Africa this August.
I see the yellow like a sunflower smile.
Join the Africa Muslims Agency's One Child, One Dream event in your area.
For Allah has given me a cotton candy sky.
Spend time with the kids learning about the Amman School of Excellence in Lebanon.
The blue sky is blue like...
Find us at an event in Durban, Johannesburg, Cape Town, Newcastle, Port Elizabeth and Pietermaritzburg. Visit africamuslimsagency.co.za for more information. Africa Muslims Agency, commemorating 35 years of empowering, educating, inspiring.
Give charity without delay, for it stands in the way of calamities. For child-headed households in Bloemendal in the Eastern Cape, the daily diet consists of white bread and a carton of cheap juice or sugar water, known locally as the poppy water diet. Make a difference to that one child or family. The Al-Fida Foundation has over the past 13 years worked on the ground and gathered the largest database in the Eastern Cape region of Muslim Zakah recipients. Phone our offices at 041 484 1288 or visit our website at www.alfida.co.za. The Al-Fida Foundation, your social investment partner in the Eastern Cape.
When the perfect blend of stylish decor, exquisite halal cuisine, and warm hospitality come together, it could only mean Al Bayt Lodge, your true home away from home. Al Bayt is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities, conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach, and other amenities. Your stay will be truly unforgettable, as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that Al Bayt has to offer. For reservations, call 041 583 6415 or visit www.albaytlodge.co.za.
The Syrian crisis has raged for over 4,000 days. 4,000 days of suffering, displacement, hunger, and intolerable insecurity. With your help, Islamic Relief can continue to stand alongside them. Never has your support been so important. Together, we can stand with the Syrian people. We can help them build a better future. Will you continue to stand with the people of Syria? Please, donate now.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media, your humanitarian broadcaster.
22 minutes after 12, you are listening to the Mid-Morning Talk on Salam Media. We are unpacking eating disorders with worker Shuhaida Adam, and before the break we tackled anorexia, the two different types of anorexia, as well as bulimia, and Shuhaida is on the other side of the stream to tell us more. Shuhaida, shukran for staying with us. Please, you may continue.
Okay, fine. Let's just carry on. I'll just go into two more, and then I want to go a little bit into some of the reasons why they exist. The next one I want to just share is the binge eating disorder. So this is where people, they are actually, it's quite prevalent with people and who have chronic illnesses apparently, and amongst adolescents. So it typically begins during adolescence, where people binge eat. They eat excessive amounts of food in a very short period of time, and there's a lack of control. They cannot stop themselves. But here, the difference here, compared to the bulimia and the other conditions, is that there's no purging behavior. So they don't then induce any vomiting or laxatives or enemas, etc., etc. They just eat these foods, consume these foods, and they then will have to now live with the consequences of consuming excessively high amounts of food. And this most common consequences here are your diseases of lifestyle, so things like heart disease. They are at high risk of stroke, diabetes, etc. And those, of course, can also be fatal because now there is no control around diet. So even if people are diagnosed with conditions, they simply cannot stop themselves. Then the last one I'm going to go into is avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. So this one here is where it usually you saw it with children, with infancy and early childhood, where there's no interest in food, or they don't want to eat a certain food because it looks a certain way, it's got a certain texture, smells a certain way, etc. Now, however, when it carries on into adulthood and it becomes a part of your life, where people are avoiding food, or they only consume a certain type of food and they don't eat, they will not eat foods that they need to gain their nutrients, then that is part of the ARFID disorder. So these eating habits also, people, they will use certain behaviors also to avoid eating. They'll stop eating with people, or they will simply not eat, or they will use supplements. They will become dependent on supplements to gain nutrients, and they will not eat. So that is, I think, yeah, that's the ones I'm going to go into for now. There's a few more. There's some newer ones that are developing also, but we can continue the discussion another day if possible. However, let's just look at why do we have these conditions? Why do people use this? Why do people fall into this? Well, first of all, one interesting thing I found is that genetically, there's a certain gene that more women have. So the effect of that gene makes women a bit more susceptible to eating disorder. So it affects your view of yourself and how you view your body and your body weight. So it makes women a little bit more susceptible to eating disorders. And then if there is someone in your family who has an eating disorder, then you are more likely to have a similar eating disorder as well. Oftentimes people with anorexia, they are excessively controlling of their foods because of certain other conditions that's happening around them. Environmental conditions, they may be victims of abuse, there may be a lot of dysfunction happening around them. So this is a form of maintaining control in a little way that they can, because there's a lot of sort of chaos around them. They are out of control of other things in their life. So this is one way of maintaining control. Psychologically also, the influence of culture, of our media in terms of body image, in terms of appearance, especially in terms of weight, Society tends to cycle through the different types of weights that's accessible, the different types of body types and figures that suddenly becomes popular. So people will then, they face a lot of influence around that. Certain psychological traits that young people may possess. If, for example, they're a bit more perfectionist or they're a little bit more neurotic, they may then be susceptible to an eating disorder. Of course, family environment, pressure from family. Oftentimes, young people face direct insults, direct pressure from family and friends to lose weight. So they then fall into this eating disorder, which will then obviously impact their well-being. And oftentimes, when the people around you are sort of supporting the effects of the eating disorder. So if, for example, they see that you are losing weight and you seem very fit and the people around you are supporting this, they may not know you have an eating disorder, but they're supporting your diet or they're supporting this, that, then that gives you a little bit more support and a little bit more confidence in carrying on with this eating disorder. It's very harmful. It requires quite intense therapy also. It's not just talk therapy. Someone with an eating disorder is going to require medical intervention with the help of nutritional experts, with the help of medical doctors, because remember, the eating disorder has done quite a bit of damage to your organs also. So especially people who have completely cut out food or are very, very restrictive in terms of their food, they can't just go back to eating normal. They can't just do it. They need support around that, and they will possibly need other medication to help their body recover from the damage that was done. So it requires quite a bit of intervention, behavior change, talk therapy, nutritional information. How can they healthily influence their eating habits? Because even people who have perhaps the binging disorder, how can they bring about control? And the control will come through quite a bit of talk therapy, helping them develop coping skills through stress, helping them develop family management skills. If there's dysfunction in the family, how can we address the dysfunction? How can we reduce that so that there is balance within the person's environment to enable them to start bringing about balance in how they are maintaining their bodies, and the relationship with food can start becoming more healthy.
Mhm. And how can family and friends support the person who has an eating disorder? How can they support them and help them overcome their disorder?
Okay, first, being very patient, being very understanding, showing empathy, not just minimizing and telling them, hey, eat properly or don't do that. This person, they cannot not do that. So number one is the patience and support. Educating yourself a little bit about it, encouragement for the person to get help. And then also because a person may have an eating disorder, but no two persons' experience of the eating disorder is the same. So recognizing what is leading up to this. One person may be facing extreme family pressure. Another person may be facing pressure on the outside. So recognizing what exactly is going on and then addressing it directly. If, for example, the family is quite focused on appearance, and then they would need to change that behavior. If a lot of the family encouragement is around how thin you are and how healthy you are, or how much exercise you're doing, the family will have to also bring about some change and how they can support that. And also just keeping an eye out. If you are aware of bulimic behavior, if you can start noticing something is off, speak to the doctor or take your child to a doctor. If you can notice that the excessive rapid weight loss, for example, or they're often dizzy, their nutrients are just not up to scratch, they're not getting enough, go to a doctor. I think a good starting point also is to take your child to a doctor, and from there you can sort of work on how you can work on an individual support plan and an individual recovery plan for the person. But however, the main thing is the patience and reducing the stigma. So understanding that this person it's a condition, so it's not just something that they can overcome on their own and just sort of wipe it out and then that's that. Oftentimes it is alongside other mental health conditions also. So they may have depression, they may have a possible personality disorders alongside that. So we would also need to have to get some treatment for that to be able to address the eating disorder.
All right, Shuhaida, shukran so much for your time and for unpacking eating disorders with us. I know we were more and bulimia, and now that you've mentioned binge eating disorder and avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, etc., it's been like wow, there and there's more that you mentioned, that you said are out there, but we're still going to learn more about them. So we have a lot to learn when it comes to eating disorders, but for what we have already unpacked and learned, I think it gives us a better perspective on eating disorders, and the fact that they're not just it's not just about the food, it's not just about eating, but it's more mental and will require a lot more assistance regarding to getting better. Shukran so much for your time. Once again, Islamic Care Line's contact details.
011-373-8080 or 078-727-1334. People are welcome to contact me and we can continue the discussion, inshallah.
Inshallah. Have a wonderful day. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Shuhaida Adam, a social worker at Islamic Care Line, taking us through eating disorders. Eating disorders are more complex than we think. It's not just about a person eating and throwing up, making themselves throw up, being obsessed with their weight. There's a lot more that goes on where in a person's mind, in a person who has an eating disorder, and they need your support as their family and friends. It is 12:33. You are listening to the Mid-Morning Talk on Salam Media. We will be right back.